Hey everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. I am starting the morning here in my greenhouse because I scored on some new plants yesterday at a end of the season sale, a 50% off sale. And so I have some planting to do. And today's video is going to be all about herbs. Culinary herbs, in fact. That's the kind that I typically grow, things that I can use in my cooking, things that I can dry or dehydrate. But mostly I like to use herbs fresh. So when we think about herbs, especially the culinary herbs that I'm going to be growing in my garden, I want to consider two major factors. One, are they a perennial or an annual? As you know, perennials are plants that we plant one time and they come back in subsequent years. Annuals they're good for 1 year, an annual, or really one season. So you plant them once, typically in the early summer, and they grow up until your first hard frost in the fall. So that's an annual herb. So that's one thing to know about when you're planting your herbs. And the second thing you want to know about that I didn't know about as a new gardener is some herbs like drier conditions and some like moisture conditions. This is super important when it comes to watering because if you cram all your herbs together in the same pot, some come back, some don't come back, some need it drier, some need it wetter, and that can be a little bit confusing. So here's a quick list of herbs that like it on the drier side. Things like rosemary. They also happen to be a perennial, which means they'll come back year after year. Thyme, all kinds of thyme. They like it on the drier side. Sage likes it on the drier side. And lavender likes it on the drier side. Those four herbs that are very commonly grown are herbs actually that originate from the sort of the Mediterranean area of the world, which it tends to be on the drier side. And in fact, I've been fortunate enough to visit Italy a few times now, and you'll see these herbs everywhere growing in Italy. Rocky crags, and they don't get tons and tons of water, and they seem to thrive just fine. So then let's think about the other herbs that kind of like more of a consistently moist soil, and those would be things like chives, basil, and parsley, and cilantro. And the surprise plants that I came across were Thunbergia, which is commonly known as black-eyed Susan vine. Look at this beauty. So I got one that is this creamy yellow with that beautiful dark throat. Look at how mature this plant is. I'm so excited. And of course, I couldn't leave with just one. And so I got this one. Check that out. Oh my gosh. This is kind of, I would say, apricot-y, corally color. Isn't that gorgeous? Let's see if there's a tag in here. Let's see what it says. Arizona Glow. Yep. So exciting. So let me tell you about Thunbergia. I tried to grow Thunbergia from seed a couple years ago. It was so hard for me to grow from seed. I mean, it took it forever to get going in my garden. In fact, I don't think I had any blooms on my Thunbergia vine until maybe September. I mean, it was such a slow grower. So imagine yesterday me seeing these on the half price off sale table, and so mature, tons of vines. And so, oh, you better believe I snagged those. I'm going to put those out here in my raised bed garden. I'll show you where they're going to be able to climb up. Thunbergia, or black-eyed Susan vine, is an annual where I live, and I'm going to leave it in the ground over winter. It might come back. If you live, in zones 8, 9, 10, it probably acts as a perennial and will come back for you. So I'll certainly leave it in over winter and see if it can handle our cold winters and come back next year. But regardless, I would grow it as an annual vine because it's supposed to be fast growing. And gosh, these are really mature plants. And so you're going to get to see me plant this, and I'm going to take those beautiful long vines and wind them up my cattle panel trellis. And hopefully it will fill in and add some gorgeous beauty to the garden. I think the stats on this Thunbergia, let me check, they're all a little bit different, but they can grow 5 to 8 feet tall. So they're vining and they're ramblers, and that is exactly what I'm after. So that's such an exciting find. So you know how it is, right? So great to go to the nursery and stumble upon something that you wasn't on your list, but you know you need to add it to your garden. All right, so first things first, I have 2 of these herbs that I'm going to plant here in the greenhouse. So I'll turn the camera around. I'm going to plant them in one of my raised bed boxes. And then we're going to head out into the raised bed garden and get the other herbs and that Thunbergia in the ground. All right, let's come down here and look at the raised bed box here in my greenhouse where I have some culinary herbs. On this end, you're going to see herbs that don't require much water. And on this end, these types of herbs that I grow like more water. So probably I would say this end of the bed gets watered about every third time compared to this, because these like things drier. These are things like thyme. I have had this thyme plant for probably 3 years now. Remember, thyme is a perennial, which means it comes back. Sage is also a perennial. I've had this sage plant for about 2 or 3 years, and actually it's looking like it's might be getting towards the end of its cycle. I think probably this will be my last year. And here, of course, in the back, I'm growing my rosemary. So those are those Mediterranean style culinary herbs that like things on the drier side. On this end, things that like it on the wetter side are, of course, the opal basil I'm going to put in today. This is some just basic Genovese standard Italian basil. Here are some of my new chives I'm going to pop in, and this is marjoram. So marjoram and oregano are sort of considered Mediterranean, but they can take more water. So I don't feel badly when I water this into the bed and it getting a little extra water. It can handle it. So, yep, easy peasy. I'm going to pop these 2 things in, the basil and the chives. I'm just going to dig a small hole, throw in some Biotone fertilizer, root stimulator fertilizer, water them in, and that's done. And then we'll head out into the raised bed garden. All right, this bed is the bed I have chosen to put my lavender in. This is a 4-foot wide bed. Lavender, according to this tag, it will grow 18 to 24 inches tall, so somewhere around here and about that wide. And so I thought I'd put them about 18 inches apart spacing, and they can fill in this end of the bed. Again, lavender is drought tolerant once it's established. I do have drip irrigation in this bed, but the plants aren't going to be right up against the drip. So, I'll just monitor it and see how they do. I think they'll be just fine. Full sun all day, so it should love it here, I'm hoping. The other thing, I just want to let you know what's in this bed, a whole bunch of different things. So I have some lemongrass. Talking about an herb, a culinary herb. I've got lemongrass right there in the middle. I have some zinnias that you saw me sow from seed, the Senorita variety. I've got some beautiful stock that I started from seed that's finally starting to flower. Let's see what else. Oh, of course, nasturtiums. I grow them everywhere. They're all over the garden. And on the very end, I've got some basil and some lunchbox pepper plants that are doing quite well. So anyhow, easy peasy. I am just going to dig a hole for my lavender, throw in some Biotone starter fertilizer. Yeah, and that's it. And I'll see how root bound these are. So I better get to it. It's in these 2 beds that I've decided to plant my last 4 plants. The Thunbergia that I showed you earlier. The Black-Eyed Susan vine is going to go on either end of this arch trellis, and I'm going to weave the vines up to get them started, and hopefully it will fill in beautifully here. And then chives on either end of this long bed. Chives are a perennial, so I want to think about right place, right plant, full sun. They'll do great on drip, and hopefully they'll come back next year for me. So I think they're going to be okay to stay in this spot. What I have right now in this bed, they just started to germinate. I just planted some cucumbers. I can't remember the variety. It's a Japanese variety, but long, slender, and very few seeds, very tender. So cucumber in here, and I have Seychelles green beans growing here. So, a lot of vining things. Woo! I'll have green beans coming up over here, cucumber coming over here, and hopefully on either end, I'll have the Thunbergia annual vine coming up and bringing some beautiful color to the garden. Time to pop in the other chive, and so move the drip line out just a little ways, dug a little hole here. Let's toss in some Biotone starter fertilizer. Ooh, I see lots of earthworms, which is a excellent sign of healthy soil. You might have noticed when I planted the other chive in the greenhouse and that one down on this end, this is called root bound. So this is quite a mature chive plant, and the roots are trying to circle the can. So you want to rip that up. You're not going to hurt the plant at all. You want to try to rough up this so that you can retrain the roots to go down and out rather than circling around and around this root ball. So you're not going to hurt anything, and leave those roots in the soil because they will become organic matter as well. So I think that's plenty. Pop it in. Could not be easier than that. And then I'm going to just move my drip line back where it was. Put the little stake in there, and I'm not going to even water these in because this soil is quite nice and damp as it is. So I'll check them tonight maybe and give them a little bit more water, but that's it. The last thing on the list is to get my surprise bonus plants in the ground. My Thunbergia, or better known as Black-Eyed Susan vine. This one is the Arizona Glow. So yeah, I've got to put it in the ground, Biotone, just like I did everything else. What will take me some doing, a little bit of time, is I'm going to weave these long, beautiful vines up through this cattle panel arch so I can give them the support that they need. And, according to the tag, it can get 2 or 3 feet wide and go 5 to 8 feet tall. So won't that be amazing over the summer for that to fill in and just show off all that beauty. So I better get to it. That's going to do it for today, everybody. I got my herbs in the ground, some in my raised bed box in the greenhouse and some out here in my raised bed garden. And the funnest part of the day, is that a word, funnest? The best part was being able to score on these Thunbergia or Black-Eyed Susan annual vines. Could not be more excited imagining them growing up and over this arch here in the garden and bringing lots of beauty. Big pops of this beautiful yellow and that gorgeous orangey red down there on the end. I'm super excited about the potential and what they're going to add to the garden. I just think they're going to be so beautiful, and I'm just so excited that I stumbled upon them yesterday at the nursery. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned a little bit about herbs in the process, and of course I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe so I can continue to bring you more of my garden adventures and learn from you all as well in the process. So everybody, no matter where you are today, I wish you all happy gardening.